Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's a very naughty microphone. I'll stand over here. Oh, it's Feedback City, my friends. But I'm not here to give you feedback. I come bearing...
It's fine. Turn off mine.
I come bearing a tuba and feedback, apparently. But also, I come with a tale. A tale that begins with this thing not working. A tale that begins in 1796 with Franz Joseph Haydn. Little help out here. That was Haydn. Here we go. Ah, there he is. Hello, everybody. A tale that begins in 1796 with Franz Joseph. What? It's gone. Huh? Oh. Hello, everybody. My name's David Silverman. Thank you very much. No, okay, so, hello, Papa Haydn. A tale that begins with Papa Haydn in 1796 and continues to Lisa Simpson in 1989. Now, how can this possibly be? Well, we're talking about engaging the world. Well, to me, in a nutshell, that means one damn thing leads to another. And to illustrate that, I'm going to talk about my favorite horn, the tuba. Now, Haydn and his pals, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, never wrote for the tuba. I think this largely has to do with the fact that it hadn't been invented yet. But they had at their disposal this instrument. This is a bass instrument called the serpent. It's a bass instrument, brass instrument made of wood. But they didn't particularly write for this either because, to quote a very old joke, it's an ill wind that no one blows good. So, but Haydn did do something very remarkable in 1796. He wrote a great trumpet concerto in E-flat for the keyed trumpet. Yes, a keyed trumpet. This trumpet could play almost chromatically, and he wrote it for the inventor, and he performed it, Anton Wiedeker. And I didn't find a picture of him, but here's how I imagine the premiere going. Oh, they'll really get into it. The crowd's going wild. But it was really quite a sensation because, you see, before that, horns were natural horns, and they cannot really produce a chromatic range. Now, I'd like to demonstrate if I can. You might want to kill this mic for a second. Now, thank you. Now you can see, it's essentially, this is a giant bugle when I don't press the bell, the keys, I mean. That's how horns could go. I mean, the higher they played, the closer the overtones got, and they could almost play chromatically. French horns, could they stick their hand on the bell and change it a half step every time they further in? If they got too far, then the show's over. But nobody had perfected the chromatic horn, and this is what this device got everybody inspired doing in the beginning of the 19th century. Instrument makers were going to try to make chromatic horns. So there were two ideas about this, using keys or valves. So like in 1811, you had this lovely horn, a chromatic bugle made by John Halliday. And then in around 1818, 1814, not quite sure, this is the Stolitz Blumel trumpet, the first valve trumpet. And then in 1821, a Parisian gent by the name of Holloway made a very interesting instrument. It's sort of like a metal bassoon sort of thing. It's a bass, contrabass bugle, basically, with keys on it, called the ophicleide, which means it's Greek for serpent-keyed, a keyed serpent. And this instrument actually became popular with Mendelssohn and Berlioz. Berlioz wrote Symphonie Fantastique for 2 ophicleides. But there was competition looming in the distance. This is in 1821, and in 1835, September 12th, a patent was taken out, Prussian patent number 19, by 2 gentlemen, Wilhelm Friedrich Weiprecht and Karl Moritz. I don't have a photo of him, but I think he looked like this, based on the dental records I could find. And they patented the first tuba, bass tuba in F, looks sort of like this. This is a little later. It had 3 valves, but looked very much like that. The tuba had arrived in 1835. Now let's talk about the most famous instrument maker, Adolphe Sax. This is how Adolphe Sax looks today. He was a very fine maker of all instruments, like his dad before him. He made clarinets, he made bass clarinets. He made many improvements of bass clarinets. He also made ophicleides, our old friend the ophicleide. So imagine, if you will, here's Adolphe Sax working in his Parisian shop. He wasn't French, he was from Belgium. He was Belch. And anyhow, he's thinking about those mouthpieces, and he goes, hey, wait a minute. If I took off these mouthpieces and put on those mouthpieces and give it a blow, I think ophicleide plus bass clarinet equals the ophiclarinetophone. I mean, the saxophone. Eureka, I've discovered the saxophone. Well, the saxophone. And actually, believe it or not, his first saxophones were bass saxophones and baritone saxophones. And then he made saxophones in all the flavors of the rainbow. You know, he had a lot of sax appeal. Terrible. I know, terrible. Terrible. So he was also making a series of horns. He was making advancements in the valves, and he called them, oddly enough, sax horns. I don't know where he got the name. But the interesting thing about the sax horns is notice the shape. This is the baritone and the bass sax horn. It looks a lot like our modern tuba. Yes, there's the Weiprecht tuba, there's a sax horn, and there's a modern Yamaha tuba. So it's interesting to me the influences that everybody had, how the Haydn's concerto influenced people to make these instruments, and the ophicleide worked with a saxophone, and sax worked with a tuba. It's all connected. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, that's not a tuba. I know it by a different name. Well, it's a type of tuba. This is the predecessor of this sort of tuba. This is called a helicon, marching tuba, very popular in the Civil War. And then John Philip Sousa approached J.W. Pepper, or perhaps it was the other way around, and they came up with the sousaphone. And that's how it originally looked. It was also called, oddly enough, the rain catcher, for a good reason. But this is the model that C.G. Kahn made. This is a Kahn tuba. And that's the one that stuck. Now, here's me with another tuba player. I want you to notice, see how the internal organs of both instruments, the sort of, the guts of it are the same. The only thing different is the shape, and that doesn't really affect the tone. They're both tubas. Now, the beer attachment is for both horns, and that can affect the tone. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, why did I decide at 17 to start playing the tuba? What geekiness possessed me? Well, I'd been listening to music for a long time, and I decided I could no longer just be a casual observer. I had to participate. I started even drawing musicians. This is a drawing that I did at the same time, at 17. And the main reason, I'm going to play again, is the reason why I did it, is I thought it would be funny. And it is. Listen. See, it's funny, right? Thank you. Yes. Well, as a boy cartoonist since the age of 4, funny to me was good. So I enjoyed playing it, and I continued through college, and I continued learning how to draw all the animals of the orchestra. And so music and tuba playing work hand in hand. One of my first jobs when I first got to LA was working with the music critic at the time, Martin Bernheimer, and doing drawings for the LA Times, and all related to music. And that led to, that's how they cool themselves off, it's true. And that led to doing piano books for a company called Alfred Publishing. So in order for you to use that, yes, those are my silly drawings in there. And this all is leading up to 1987, and when I started working on The Simpsons in the early days of the Tracy Ullman Show. And it was myself, Wes Archer, and Bill Kopp, 3 animators working with Matt Groening. And we were doing the Tracy Ullman shorts. And here's some imagery that you may know or may never have seen. And we did that for 2 years. And we did that toiling away. And then suddenly, in the beginning of '89, we were told it was going to be a series. And that's very exciting. So Wes Archer and I were made directors. And the first thing Wes was working on was the main model pack. And I was working on the opening title sequence. These are some of my original thoughts on the title sequence. And working with creator and Matt Groening and Sam Simon, who's one of the developers and the showrunner, we worked out the gags for the opening title sequence, except for Lisa. We didn't have a gag for Lisa. Well, Lisa didn't really have much of a different personality than Bart, as you see. She was just as bratty as Bart was. So she hadn't developed a real personality at this point. And I didn't have a gag for her, so I just did some dumb little gag in there just as a placeholder. I think something from her coming from ballet class. I won't even tell you what it was. It's just stupid. No, I'm not going to tell you. And just to sort of hang a light on the fact we don't have it yet. And I had a big meeting with everybody, with Matt Groening and Sam Simon and James L. Brooks, the 3 developers and executive producers of the show, and all the writers and everybody. And I pitched it, and they liked it. They had notes for this, notes for that. And clearly, we had the note that, well, Lisa doesn't really have a gag, so what can we do for Lisa? And this is where this is all leading up to. I suggested, what if she's in the band, and what if she plays the tuba? They liked half the idea anyhow. So the tuba wasn't it, but it did get them thinking, and I think it was Matt that thought of the saxophone. And then James L. Brooks said something very smart. He says, like, yeah, what if she played the baritone saxophone? In fact, what if she plays it really well? That could be her character. She could be the genius kid of the family that no one appreciates. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, and out of that meeting, not only did we get Lisa playing the saxophone, but episode number 6 of the first season was entitled Moaning Lisa. And Lisa has the blues, and we meet Bleeding Gums Murphy. And I had one of my favorite jokes in there was, where'd you get a name like Bleeding Gums Murphy? Well, you ever been to the dentist? Yeah, lots of times. Well, I haven't. Maybe I ought to go sometime. Good joke. The other joke that I like too, by the way, because I mentioned the saxophone, where Homer is singing sadly, because Lisa's gone, into her saxophone saying, saxophone, saxophone. What's great about that joke is everything's wrong. You don't play the saxophone that way. You don't call the saxophone saxophone. And Beethoven was born, wrote the Fifth Symphony 35 years before its invention. I mean, it's just one of those great jokes. Oh, that's funny, right? That's what humor's about. It's the absurdity. So that's what happened, and that's what I was mainly talking about, is that when you speak of like enabling the world, it's about making these connections. And I looking back and say, well, how did this happen, and where did this connect to, and how did this happen? And then all these things happened, and I got inspired by the tuba, because I love the tuba. I love the sound of the tuba. And I was in this meeting, and something creative came up, and we had to think of something, and I brought what I enjoyed to the party. And that's what these meetings are like, especially on our show, is that people come up with their different thoughts and points of view, and they pitch things out, and if they're funny, they get on. We had executive producer David Merkin for 2 seasons. He happens to be vegetarian. So he pitched the idea of Lisa becomes a vegetarian. It's very funny, and we used it. And that's how it works. A lot of people come in different ways, and vegetarianism is funny. See? Even the word's funny, without a K. And that's how these things work. That's how these things grow, and that's how this stuff happens. And the other thing that's interesting is Lisa has inspired young girls to learn to play the saxophone. That's so catchy. And maybe it'll inspire them to change the name to saxophone. What does Adolf Sax know? So anyhow, I continue to, wrong way. I continue to play the tuba and to do drawings involving the tuba. And sometimes I try to play the tuba and draw at the same time. It doesn't work out. And sometimes I play with the tuba on fire. But that, my friends, is another story. So I will leave you with one more little song. You might want to turn this off. Thank you very much.